beautiful lights. I am your host, Kimberly Barrett. Welcome to the Sharing Love and Light Show, Vibration and Consciousness on the Planet. I am a psychic medium, quantum energy healer, and intuitive coach here to help you experience light and love. On this show, I will help you tap into your personal power and shift your energy so you can step into your life's purpose and manifest your dreams. I believe that love is not a verb, it is a state of being. Stay with me for the next hour and unlock the quantum energy gifts that are already in you. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show starting now. Hello, beautiful lights. Welcome to Transformation Talk Radio. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show with me, Kimberly Barrett. If you're watching us live on Facebook or on YouTube, feel free to type in a comment or emoji just to let us know you're here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Tonight, I have a special guest with me. She is a trauma survivor and an incredible, very powerful, I call her shadow journey coach. Is certified in health coaching, life coaching, relationship coaching. She's just really amazingly trained in everything. And she also trained for over 10 years in Tibetan practices. So she has so many unique and powerful gifts that she offers the world on a daily basis. I am so blessed to know her and even more blessed to have her on our show tonight. So welcome the fabulous coach, Captain.
Thank you, Miss Kimberly. It's such an honor to work with you. I've been having such a great time being on your other channels, learning and getting to know you better. So I'm so excited to be here.
And I'm so excited that our energies came together as well. And, you know, we came up with this like really amazing topic tonight. And I know that a lot of the people that I know that listen to my show are going to love this topic because we're talking about seeing through the face of fear. So before we get into it, tell me a little bit about what that means to you.
Seeing through the face of fear means that we all really construct our fear. So the only thing really is fear itself. So when you start to break down and look at the reasons of why you're afraid, you may not even remember why you're afraid. So there's all these causes and conditions that you were raised with or that you brought forward into this life that you're working with. And it's just how you think about it. And once you're able to change your perspective, the fear just drops away.
It's like drop the mic, enough said, right? You're making me think of that like FEAR, false evidence appearing real. But I know there's so much more to it when it comes to like, I've talked to you about things like this, you know, as a coach, when you're working with someone and they do have a lot of fears, is there kind of a process that you go through to help people kind of wake up to it? I know a lot of us, it's kind of subconscious, right?
A lot of it would be based on, I can't do something. So they don't really recognize it even as a fear. So they won't. So since they don't recognize it as a fear, they think it is just a way that they really are. They're like, this is just me. And so they own it and claim it, and they just keep reapplying it, redoing it to themselves. And they don't even know that they're doing it. Like, well, I can't do that, but it's just me. You know, it's not Kimberly over here. It's not but it's me. And there's something wrong with the me. And so they're not claiming it that way. And so when they start to look at it in a different view, like, oh, wait a minute, there's not really a me that it adheres to. I'm not a special snowflake. I can do. You know, there's our physical limitations, of course, but I'm talking about for the majority, most of our fears are like, oh, I'm a special snowflake. This only applies to me. I can't do this because, and they'll come up with all the excuses. So they don't think of it as fear. They're not even seeing it as fear. They're thinking about it as a good friend. Like, oh, well, I know myself. And so since I know myself and my limitations, I'm within my own limitations. I'm going to stay here because it's really safe.
Oh, I love what I'm hearing from you. So, my listeners that are out there, what I'm hearing is a lot of times, we'll really think that it's something that just is what it is. There's nothing we can do about it. It's just part of my personality. I have these blocks, right? We don't even know that all it is a fear. And we said like false evidence appearing real. That's really, it's our own thinking and fears that are in the way. We really think that it's something that's like a part of us, right? And there's no way that we can change, no way that we could shift. And what I'm hearing from you is when you work with clients, you can really help them see through the falsities of that.
Yes, when they start to really want to look at it, like I really want to do this, I want to overcome this, or I really want to reach this goal, especially during coaching, it makes it easier to work with. Like, okay, well, first thing you do is say, well, why can't you? And they'll give you a long laundry list and believe it, all of it. And you're like, well, why is that?
What are some of the, sorry to interrupt, but what are some of the kind of like things that people come up with that they think is in their way? And yet you discover later is actually an underlying fear.
Well, we'll take relationships because I guess they're the easiest. They're like,
and most relatable to most of my listeners, I'm pretty sure.
So let's say that you keep attracting the same kind of partner and you've self-identified with, let's say you egotistical, we'll just use egotism. Like I always get these egotistical partners that don't care about me. And no matter how many men or I date, it's always the same type of person. They seem great at first. And then I get this right back into my face, this egotistical person, and I just attract. So you've made it all about yourself attracting these certain type of people, and you keep reiterating that. And then it becomes a fear like, oh yes, that's all I do. Every guy you meet. So you'll just be instantly magnetized to people who are giving you that same cycle of person. And usually what happens is it's circumvented around a fear. So you have to go deeper because that's the surface level. First, you've got the person and that you're attracting. Well, why are you attracting that person? And usually a lot of the time, when people are attracting a negative personality or a person who is overbearing, what's happening is they're falling for those people because it keeps them safe. Somehow they feel more secure around a person who's not so kind to them.
Oh my God, I so love what you're saying because, and it sounds weird, right? That you would go after someone. I guess what's coming to my mind as you're talking, I'm so excited about this, is a lot of the people I know that talk about attracting narcissists in their life, whether it's a dating relationship or just relationships in general, and narcissist being someone like you're saying that's like really self-centered and doesn't care and doesn't really treat them right and really feels like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do about it. I feel stuck, and sometimes even go to that victim, right? That person's doing that to them and there's no way that they can overcome it. And I just got excited when you said that because I just listened to this one guy on YouTube. His name's not coming to me right now. And he was talking about that codependency and digging deeper. And that's what I'm hearing from you, that a lot of us don't dig deeper to see where that's really coming from, right? That we could clear out and then do it differently.
Yes. I think it's important, especially when you go into any kind of coaching or shadow work, that you take 100% responsibility of yourself and see how many times you fail at that.
I'm like, ding, 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 ding.
It's like, where's my victim? And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I just didn't take responsibility for myself. And you'll find that those are usually tied to past traumas and fears in your life or something you could have brought from a previous life even.
I'm like, say that again, right? That a lot of times we can't see that what's really going on is we're playing in a story of victim and we're attracting certain people because they kind of feel safe to us, yes. Right?
That would be correct. I mean, we
like
also
old trauma responses. Yeah. And that most people don't dig deeper. And I love that you said that, because I was talking to this woman recently, and she was talking about these interactions with this young lady in her life that really frustrates her. She could see the victim in the young lady, and she was stepping out of the rescuer part, but she couldn't figure out why she would get caught in a persecutor role with the girl playing the victim. And also, she was telling me this story, but she couldn't see that she was falling into the victim. So a lot of times we're kind of blind to it, right?
Yeah, the minute we start associating our behavior with someone else, even our aggravation, and we start to say it's them and they're doing something, we have stepped out of our own sovereignty, and we don't.
They made me feel, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Feel, or this is, instead of taking that deeper look and saying, I'm taking 100% responsibility for myself. And we are so conditioned to do that, to project. We've seen TV, we've been raised in it, it's indulged in our society. So, I mean, it is a really hard habit to break. It's something you have to put a lot of effort into.
I love what you're saying. This is getting me so excited, because I tell my listeners all the time, it is not an easy practice. Yet, if you really want to shift and you really want to change, you're going to have to take 100% responsibility for yourself. And that's not always easy to do, because sometimes we can't see that subconscious programming that's running the show. And I know that you've helped me see some things, that I've talked to you for a little bit. And just, I have to tell you how great is that just after a few minutes, I was like, wow, look at that underneath there. Right. And so I just love what you're saying, that we think that it's, this other person or this block that we have or whatever it is, when really, if you dig deep enough, there's a fear under there, and that's usually false, right? That it's a false evidence appearing real. It's something from our past that we need to release.
Exactly. When we can even make a timeline of our traumas to see where it's coming from when you start to map it out. That's one of my favorite exercises.
And a lot of us don't want to go that deep. So on that note, we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, let's see if will tell us some of her story and journey about seeing through the face of fear. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back soon. Welcome back, beautiful lights. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light show with me, Kimberly Barrett. If you are watching us on Facebook Live or the replay or YouTube, feel free to type in a comment or emoji just to let us know you were here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Before we get back to our discussion, I want to remind everyone how to get in touch with me, and also how to get in touch with my guest. I can be reached through my website, sharingloveandlightshow.com. My guest can be reached through her website, and that's 21YULOKOD108.com. And I do have some announcements, a reminder that I'm offering 20% off all individual services to my Sharing Love and Light listeners. Just use the code 20%, 20, spell out PERCENT. And I have a new free ebook. I tried to get it out before the show. It will be done in the next few days. So what I'm going to do, and it talks about intention, intuition, and inspiration. I just can't wait to share it with you guys. I will make sure that the link is posted on all my social media, as well as my Transformation Talk Radio host page, so you guys can access that free ebook. Super excited about it. So back to I love that you are sharing about taking 100% responsibility for ourselves. And I know for me, a lot of times I think I'm taking 100% responsibility. And then when I get really stuck with stuff, I'm like, I start digging in, like you're talking about, and looking at what's really going on. And there's some like victim story playing in the background. And there's some like survival patterns like coming up. And that's what's really going on. Kind of like choosing emotionally unavailable partners because it feels safer, and then complaining about how I'm attracting emotionally unavailable partners. When what I'm hearing from you is you help people go in and really dig in and face that kind of stuff. What I'd love to hear from you is your story, because I know you have quite a story. So, in a brief way, tell our listeners how you got to this place where, you're like this amazing coach.
Well, I started off in Knoxville, Tennessee, right? Just raised here in Knoxville girl. And I just did all the steps, I was a good student. I was raised in a home where it was normal raising. I mean, everybody was punished by, whipping and all of that. That was just very normal paddling. It was even in school. So
yeah, back then we called it normal, right? Like the corporal punishment. And today, like CPS gets called on that, right? So back then it was like in the normal punishment, paddling and yelling.
End up in the hospital, it was normal. It was like, oh, that's normal. You expect your parents to kill you, and everybody said it. And it was like, yeah, and we're just all happy because we didn't die.
Because we didn't die from that experience, right? And then it affects you when you get older.
Yeah. And then so I just was the good girl. I was trained to be the good girl, and I was very codependent without realizing it because I was always watching around trying to be the good girl. So made good grades and did my chores and went to school and did all the things. And I ended up being an accountant, a tax accountant, and I married a man who was in computer engineering. And, we'd acquired our home, and it was in the place where I'd always wanted to live since I was a kid, with a pool, and we had a boy and a girl kid, and we had everything that, the picture, because we're always saying image and attract. And
this is supposed to make me happy, right?
Yeah. So I was taking 100% responsibility, right? I'd created this life, and I was still, in essence, wasn't taking responsibility for it. So that was part of the problem. I was doing it through people pleasing, and I was doing it out of fear and scarcity, constantly stressed out. So what happened was I had a mental, physical, and emotional breakdown. And after I had my second child, and it was really traumatic because I went into anaphylactic shock 4 times over taking aspirin. And they didn't know what was wrong with me, and I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I lost, being able to even control my body
and then everything falls apart, and then you're left with just you if you can't control your body.
Right. So that made some really big turn to faith. What's going on? Why did this happen? That search. Why did this happen? And Western doctors just gave me an EpiPen and told me to go away because they were just going to send me back into anaphylactic shock, and they didn't want that liability. Mm-hmm. So it really was just a soul search within myself. So I got really down into my faith of Christianity first, and because that was where my root was. I was raised Greek Orthodox, and so I prayed all the time because you don't really have anything else. I've had 2 kids. One was a little tiny baby, one was 5, and I just wanted to be there. Like, what's going on? And so that started me into my deep journey of praying every day and still trying to say, okay, it wasn't this way before. It doesn't have to be this way. And I just kept searching and then until I found meditation. So my first meditation was from the American monk, and I just really wanted to heal people. And that was always what I wanted to do, even before tax accounting was just something I was doing to pay the bills. Because I didn't.
So something deep inside of you knew that you were going to be healing.
Yes. And that's what came out in that meditation was, I want to be a healer. And it was like, heal yourself. And I'm like, okay, how do I do
yourself first, right? Like you can't really be healing other people if you don't heal yourself.
Right. And so that led me to an acupuncturist, and he led me to Tibetan meditation. And so I switched gears, and
which is really powerful, right? The type of Tibetan meditation that you got led to.
Absolutely. It's one of the most profound. It's meditations called Dzogchen. And I still do it and practice it every day today. because it helps me to watch my mind. The point of the meditation is not to calm down or relax. It really is to watch what your mind is doing. And
Is
so
that similar to the Vipassana meditation?
it is similar, but it's just
Not the same thing, but similar, right?
Yes. Yes, it can lead you to the same place.
It's like practicing mindfulness in a lot of ways, only yours was deeper than that.
Well, mindfulness is really being mindful of something. And this particular meditation in Dzogchen is not being mindful, but of something. Like you're not being, it's really just what they call the nature of mind, or your true light.
So you're going into like the true nature of mind, and you'd have to really practice it and study it to get there, right?
Yes, actually, it takes a lot more practice. It's experiential more. I mean, of course, I
Practice, experience. You had guides too that helped you, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you dug deep into some stuff that really like helped you understand the mind.
Absolutely. And I had wonderful teachers and lots of study and lots of retreats, 9 hours a day, week-long silent retreats, lots of beautiful practice in that way. And I still do it. I'm devoted to it because it's just helped me so much.
And I don't know if people really understand how intense that is to go that deep into that type of meditation and do week longs and have that kind of like training in it. But it really puts you in a position of really understanding things better than most people, especially the mind.
It does, because you can see things deeper because you're choosing to. You can see your reactions versus someone else's reactions and see a more full picture, because you aren't just, you're really being mindful of what's showing up in you. So there's that mindfulness piece that you can use. And then you need to see also what's coming up in them and making that a whole picture.
Wow. And then I know that you come from a lot of abuse history. So you really faced a lot of stuff as you were healing and growing through a lot of this.
Yes, actually, I've also come up with a repressed memory that I was holding since I was 3, and it was really dictating my life almost in a puppet master form that I couldn't see. I was held in that 3-year-old nativity, and I couldn't see that I was reacting in that victimhood of that 3-year-old mentality. And so it became very clear when it was released. Like I was able to put myself in such a safe place that it came up, and it was held beautifully by healers that helped me navigate through that part, because my mind started to split and they put it back together. Like, no.
Oh, and I love what you just said, that when you have that type of repressed memory trauma come up, you really want to make sure you have people there that know what they're doing, that can support you through that, and that can really help you heal through it. And you've become one of those people that can be there for people and help them through that. It's really a powerful story as you tell it.
I'm still living it, I think, in a lot of ways, but it's just beautiful to be with people like you, who's also helped me as my psychic abilities also developed. So you being with you and on your normal network has helped me develop those skills and train, so I don't go, oh, okay, now I know how to do things, so it's been really helpful.
Yeah. So then we start to attract the people into our lives that we really need. Right. And that type of thing. I've talked to my listeners about a lot of what we're saying. You use that word sovereignty, really coming into your freedom and your sovereignty. And then we attract the people that we need, like the right healers come in your life, the right book shows up, the right people show up. When we're really, what I heard in your story that I love for everyone is that like massive surrender. And then you were open to, okay, show me what I need to do next. And that's one thing actually that you said to me is, that I was going through a really tough time. And what I took away from our conversation was just keep asking, what's my next step? And trusting that. So I'm also really grateful. We're going to take another quick break. and then come back and talk more about really like seeing through the face of fear, and having share with us, whatever insights and tools and things like that she can share with us, so that we can see through the face of our fears. So we're going to take a brief break and be right back. Welcome back, beautiful lights. You are listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show with me, Kimberly Barrett. If you're watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube, I remind all of you, feel free to type in a comment or emoji just to let us know that you were here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And before we get back to our discussion, I do like to remind everyone how to get in touch with me. You can reach me through my website, sharingloveandlightshow.com. And my guest, can be reached through her website, which is 21YULOKOD108.com. So reminder announcements, the 20% off for individual services, just put in 20% as the code. And I have a new free ebook that's coming out. It's about the 3 I's: intention, intuition, and inspiration. We can do a tango dance with that. So the link will be posted on all my social media, as well as my Transformation Talk Radio host page. We're coming back to this conversation with and I'm so blessed that she's sharing with us, these really, you can tell someone that's done shadow work because they can share their vulnerability without flinching, right? And it's almost like nonchalant, like, yeah, this happened, right? And I'm on the other side of it. But I do want you to let people know what's going on in your life that you're offering right now.
I am offering coaching and shadow journeys. So those are both on my website. And I'm also going to start an online shadow group that I will offer through Meetup and Facebook. I'll put it on my Facebook page as well. So if you're looking for it there, I'm going to start it on Tuesday nights. Probably towards the end of the last Tuesday of the month is when I'll start to offer that online. I'm also offering one, if anybody's in Knoxville, the last Thursday of the month at Hummingbird Cafe, I am offering a shadow group there as well in person.
Ooh, that sounds really awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So we have been talking about this, like seeing through the face of fear thing. And I know a lot of us, fear is like avoid, avoid, avoid. That's what fear tells us to do, right? We don't even want to look at it. We don't even want to see it. It gets masked and covered up as everything but. I know that you are such an amazing coach. If you can think about offering our listeners some of the, like a couple of tips for them, things to look out for, or just, these are things that you can do to kind of wake up, whatever it is that you'd like to offer them.
One of the things you've already mentioned is just to notice when you're starting to blame other people for things that are happening in your life. So that's one sure sign that you can say, well, I'm not taking 100% responsibility. And I know that we get in those victim frames of mind, and they're really difficult, especially if it's really hard abuse. But on the little thing, you're like, well, this person made me late. You're not taking responsibility.
It's that made me, right? This made me this, and that made me feel. And if you hear yourself, that's what I caught in this woman that I was talking to. She's really like advanced in a lot of ways. She's really stepped out of the rescuing. She really tries to not be a victim, really tries to stay out of, that triangle, the victim, persecutor, rescuer triangle. She really tries to step out of it. And as she was talking to me, I kept hearing her say, made me feel. And I was like, do you hear yourself? And that's what I'm hearing from you, that like, if you start hearing yourself and noticing, this is that mindfulness piece. I'm noticing that I'm saying made me feel. Absolutely. I'm in the victim mentality.
And another thing that can help you get out of that sin, because it's really hard to get out of victim mentality since we've been taught to do it so well.
Yeah, we're so deeply ingrained in our culture and that like, victim blame culture, right? Guilt, shame, and blame, victim, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, coming out of all this, wars and people being oppressed, it was just a mindset that was carried from one generation to the next. So there really is no shame in admitting to that. Yeah, this is how I grew up, and it's okay. And just that self-acceptance. So self-acceptance is really important to work in your shadows, is to just feel good about it, even though you did things you really, when you're facing them, if you just accept them through yourself.
So I think that's probably, I just thought of like all my friends and myself and like clients that I work with, especially in like the intensive outpatient program. What a tough thing to do, right? Can you talk more about like specific ways that you can, and I know you have them inside of you, to offer yourself that self-compassion and that self-care while you're facing these things? Because it's so easy to then beat yourself up over acting in a way that doesn't match your values, right?
Absolutely. One of the best and easiest ways, because we have all these lovely people who have continued to examine them, is EFT. So the tapping technique. So there is
emotional freedom technique.
So there's one little place on your hand on the side. If you just have one spot, you can just say, even though I lied to my boss about being late, I still love and accept myself. Just one, whatever it is, even though I yelled at my kid and they did not deserve it, I still love and accept myself. And
oh my God, I love what you're saying. That's that karate chop point, right? Because I know not everyone can see, but there's a karate chop point. And if you just tap on that, and I absolutely love what you're saying, that you tap on the point, and then you just brought something up for me, which is an example, like, even though I just played the victim of this person, right? I totally like played the victim of that person. I love, forgive, and accept myself as I am, and say that 3 times. So that's an actual thing you can do in the moment, right? Even though I just, snapped at my cat the other day, right? I totally snapped at my cat. I love, forgive, and accept myself, even though I just played the victim to a friend of mine. I mean, I went into total like victim mentality. I love, forgive, and accept myself for falling into that.
Yeah, that's absolutely because the more compassion you have for yourself, the more compassion you can give to others. It's all just anything that you can give yourself to take it off that punishment level, because we've all been punished in these normal ways. And so it's good to now give ourselves the beautiful mother, the mother that we needed, that nourishes that.
It's reparenting that child inside of you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That child that didn't get what they needed, or they were punished, that now you're going to reparent the child and offer that, because a lot of us, when we go into codependency, my understanding is energetically, it comes from either showing up as an adult in childhood when you didn't have a childhood, you had to play adult roles, or you also didn't emotionally get what you needed for whatever reason. And a lot of us growing up in our culture, right, that I'm hearing you like, quote unquote, that culture in the past of, seen but don't be heard, or don't even be seen, do as I say, some of the corporal punishment, that, it's not the fault of the parents. We can take blame out of it as well. Like you said, it's like generational. It just happened. Take the blame out of it and really like offer compassion toward all of it. And the thing that popped in my head was what I just heard you say, that's so opposite where my brain goes. I think that I'm just supposed to be compassionate to everyone else, and then I don't offer it to myself. And what I'm hearing is the more you actually offer compassion to yourself, and compassion isn't offered when you're feeling good or acting right. you offer people compassion when you're not, right? So
Yeah.
offering yourself that compassion helps you be more compassionate, is what I'm hearing from you. And we didn't learn that in our society. It's like totally opposite. You're supposed to give yourself to everybody, that if you love people enough, then you'll love yourself. And it's so like opposite of the truth, is what I'm hearing from you.
Well, when we start to self-identify, if you'll notice, the only time we really self-identify is if we've had trauma. Like
Yeah.
if we've abused ourselves in some way, like, oh, I've got to check this, or, oh, I'm not looking right, or I'm self-correcting. And that's a trauma body. If you're in joy, are you ever correcting yourself? You're not.
No, when you're in joy, you're just in joy, right? And then there's people like me, and I know some of my listeners, where we don't even know what joy looks like.
Yeah.
It took me, like, I had someone that was a mentor that was walking me through this type of healing. And I literally like didn't even know what that would look like. She was like, drop into peace or drop into joy. And I'm like, what does that feel like? What does that actually feel like? And it's like, well, offer it to yourself anyway. And then one of the things that I was taught was, animals and children and things like that, that there are certain times when I really do have that compassion, feel that, and then give exactly that to myself. And it was really hard to do. I can hear some of my, I almost feel like I'm energetically connected to some of the clients out there. And have you had coaching clients that like, it takes a while to really grasp that concept and practice that?
Absolutely. And that was one of the things when I did that. There was a Tongling compassion, and I could actually have compassion for the Taliban, but not myself. I literally almost got up, and the whole group got up and went outside with me to say, you deserve love, because that was me over 10 years ago. It was sad. It was like, I thought about loving myself. It felt like I was being hit.
It's like, I can offer love to people that have done like the worst things in the world. I can give them compassion, but the thought of offering it to myself, and that's that trauma body. And I remember this young girl saying to me, and I looked at her like, you need to drop that right now. And she literally said to me this term that I think psychology uses today about, well, I have this trauma bond and I'm stuck with it. And I thought about what you said. So when we come back, you can, talk a little bit about that, facing the fear that's under that. She's believing that she has this trauma bond and she can never be released from it. Yeah. And what I'm hearing from you is there's something underneath there that you can actually use skills like do the tapping and say, even though I'm re-experiencing this trauma, I love, forgive, and accept myself. Right? 3 times.
Yes.
Yeah. So when we come back, we are gonna talk and wrap up with I could go on for hours with you, about this topic. So we're gonna come back and kind of wrap up what we've talked about. We're gonna take a brief break. So we will see you soon. And we're coming back again for the last segment. Welcome back, beautiful lights. You're listening to the Sharing Love and Light Show with me, Kimberly Barrett. If you're watching us on Facebook Live or YouTube, type in a comment, let us know you were here, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And before we get back to the discussion, it's just a reminder, you can reach me through my website, sharingloveandlightshow.com. And you can reach Captain, my guest, if you're interested in coaching services or this new group that she's starting. That's a shadow group. It'll help you face a lot of those fears, I'm pretty sure. You can reach her through her website, 21YULOKOD108.com. I am still offering 20% off my individual services to any of my Sharing Love and Light listeners. Just put in the code 20 and spell out %, 20%. And I have a new free ebook coming out that's all about the 3 I's: intention, intuition, and inspiration. We're going to do a little tango, right? With those, the link will be posted on all my social media as well as the Transformation Talk Radio host page. I am coming back to I'm so excited. She just shared with us this amazing technique that if you are struggling with being really hard on yourself while you're doing like this, facing your fears and facing your shadows and things like that, she's giving us this amazing technique where you're tapping on just, I know emotional freedom technique is a lot of other stuff, but you're tapping on just that karate chop point and saying out loud, even though I, whatever it is, I, love, forgive, and accept myself. Tell us more about like the energy technology behind that, why that would be so helpful to people.
What it does is actually there are more steps to do a full one, and that one's just really to get a fix for it. But what it's doing is it's dropping your thought patterns down into your heart patterns. So it's just taking it from your headspace and dropping it right down into your heart, because that's where the center of compassion is, where your feeling and emotions are. So when you do that, you're actually giving love and compassion right to what you're thinking. And then that way it can start to really make a difference in your life when you start to pattern that way.
And it's making that shift. And then in that moment, it's taking all those thoughts down into the heart space so you can have some compassion. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I encourage people to do as listeners, and I said this on the Dr. Pat show, she was like, what's something you can leave with the listeners? And I'm like, don't trust us, test it. Go test it. It's a karate chop point. And when you're not feeling any compassion for yourself, you're beating yourself up. My example would be I played the victim the other day and I got myself really upset, because I was playing victim and it wasn't good. And then I started to want to beat myself up. And I can say, even though I played the victim, I love, forgive, and accept myself, and say it 3 times and tap on that point. And that can help. So doing a little bit of wrap up, tell us, anything else that you have to offer to the listeners about kind of like the shadow journey and really like seeing fear as false evidence appearing real, whatever else that you really feel intuitively inclined to share with our listeners right now.
I think one of the things I'd like to offer too is to see who's making the decision. Like, let's say you have a decision and it feels really hard to make the choice, and you can see who's making the decision. So you can kind of break yourself apart. Is my 5-year-old making that decision? Like, let's say you want to do something for your work and you're procrastinating and you're like, let's go a little bit deeper. Who's making this decision? And you can say, my young child who was abused in middle school is making this decision of procrastination because they don't think they can succeed. So, instead of the person who wants to get the task done in order to get their job and to get where they want to go with it. So it's just really kind of, well, who's making this decision? What part of me? And then you can start to look at where that trauma starts, because it might be a little trauma, but it is a trauma. We accept, that's just middle school. Well, that middle school is still playing out your decision role. That's what's making your decision. So you can't succeed from the child that had some fear in middle school, make your life choices for you, because your life's going to suck at that point, because their life sucked at that point. So it's always good to kind of look.
Oh my God, I love what you're saying, because it's like, how many of us don't realize how much the past is affecting our present decisions? And I love what you're saying is to check in with yourself. Is it really my adult self choosing to do that? Or is that an aspect of my child inside from the past that's making that decision? Right. So I love what you're saying. Like, I think I'm just procrastinating and I can't move forward in life, but asking yourself, who is inside of me, that aspect of me that's actually procrastinating? I absolutely love that. Right. And I do that all the time. If I get triggered, when you go into that like fight or flight response and you get triggered, I will pause and ask myself, how old do I feel right now? And I did that the last time I visited my parents in Florida. And I got 8 years old. I literally felt 8 in that moment. And then I understood why I wanted to hug my mom, and she was in her fight or flight. So you can't touch her when she's in that. And my 8-year-old child would have taken that personally and gotten derailed and felt like there's something wrong with me and I'm not lovable. When really mom's in her trauma response. And when someone's in fight or flight, don't touch them. Right. But the 8-year-old wanted to hug her, and mom's doing, get off of me. Right. And I realized in that decision making and all of that stuff, like you're talking about, how old do I feel? And I do that when I'm like going to binge eat or staring at the TV or whatever it is. I'm like, who in me is making this decision? And a lot of times it's that teenager in me that's like avoiding everything and doesn't want to deal with life, that's running the show for me, instead of my adult self that knows, you suit up and you show up and you do it anyway. So I love what you're saying.
There's something else I want to add too, because a lot of us have that overworker too, and you don't want to work yourself to death. So you do want to make sure there's play in your life, and we're not designed to have play in our lives. So you need to see if your workaholic's making your choices for you by not taking that break or vacation.
Yep. Yeah. And so checking in with yourself, and that's that, like really increasing your consciousness. So we're running out of time at this point. I would talk with for hours and hours, but we have a minute left. So thank you for being on our show. I'm going to remind my listeners, remember, love is not a verb. It is a state of being. It's an energy we can tap into and a level of consciousness we can move into. So join me every first and third Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio for sharing love and light, vibration, and consciousness on the planet. And be on the lookout for that new free ebook. Thank you, I appreciate you. Bye, everyone. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the Sharing Love and Light Show, Vibration and Consciousness on the Planet, with me, Kimberly Barrett. Remember, love is not a verb, it is a state of mind. You've spent the last hour experiencing love and light and tapping into the quantum energy that already exists in you. But the journey doesn't stop here. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on Transformation Talk Radio, as we continue exploring the energetic shifts happening in and around us with love and light. See you next time.